Hi, this is Candie Langdale.
And this is Doug Langdale, and we're here with Cartoon Insiders with Doug and Candie.
This is our third podcast in this series.
And we're still talking about my history.
Well, I just thought it would be fun to go over your history in the beginning.
Yeah.
Because you have a long history in animation. 34 years. Ain't nothing to sneeze at.
Nope.
So we've gone over your work with Darkwing Duck, your years at Disney, Earthworm Jim, Pinky, Elmira and the Brain, the Mr. Potato Head show, and then
back to Disney.
Yeah. Star Command, Ozzy House of Mouse, and you created The Weekenders.
Yes.
So that was the first show that you created from scratch by yourself.
All by myself,
of your brain.
Yeah.
Yes. So that's something.
It was.
That's
It was weird. I mean, as I said last time, I at every stage was ill prepared. And also, like, I had never really tried to do this before, and the first time I tried it, I sold the show and then made the show, which is crazy.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
because everything we've experienced since then teaches us that it's hard.
Yes. It's not like that anymore.
So surely it didn't happen a second time. What was it like with Dave the Barbarian?
It was... We had finished Weekenders, and then we... I mentioned this before, they picked up another 5 episodes, and then they changed their mind about the 5 episodes, and I think there were a few shows that got sort of greenlit and then redlit around that time, but we were the first one. But, so I was like, okay, I gotta come up with something else to do. So I pitched a few things, and one of them was Dave the Barbarian. Mm-hmm. And this was a pretty developed pitch.
Because you learned.
Because I learned, and they were like, "Great, let's start working on it right away." And there was another thing I pitched at the time called Misfit, Geek, and Weirdo that they also optioned, but that never went anywhere. It was in some ways a little bit similar to Gravity Falls, actually. But for whatever reason, they had a lot of shows that were kind of in that arena that were in development at some point at Disney, and they just never went. But Dave the Barbarian, I don't know, for some reason, so I had to write a Bible for the show, the document that explains what the show is, and I decided to write it in the form of a travel brochure for the land of Udragoth, where the show was set. And it was nuts. It was a very strange document.
Where is this document? I want to see this document.
I have no idea.
Oh, Doug.
Sorry. But, I wrote this brochure, and I know there was a lot of stuff in there about what a great place it was to visit despite the flying razor squid attacks.
Flying razor squid attacks?
There were repeated mentions of how the flying razor squid attacks are much reduced from previous seasons.
Oh, dear.
And quite under control, mostly. And I turned the thing in, and Barry Blumberg, who was the head of TVA, was like, "Are you actually going to do all this flying razor squid stuff?" And I was like, "Nah." I just thought it'd be funny for this document. And he's like, "Maybe you should write something that's more like what you're going to do for this show."
But why?
But so I did both. Mm-hmm. And supporting characters and stuff. And we made an animatic for the show that was extremely detailed. It was almost a pilot episode. It was at a time when Disney was making a lot of pilot animatics in order to develop shows, and each one got more elaborate than the one before it. So they were almost animated by the time we came along.
Right.
And they picked up the show. It was a year, I think, almost to the day between when they greenlit it for development and when they officially picked up the show, which is actually pretty fast. It sounds like a long time.
Right. Development can take a long time.
Yeah.
Years.
And I think and I wasn't there full time for that year. I did some other stuff. That might have been when I did Ozzy and Drix even. I did some other stuff in that gap there.
Well, it says you did the X's 2005, 2006, and Dave the Barbarian 2004, 2005.
Yeah, Dave was definitely before the X's.
Oh, was there any overlap?
No.
Okay.
No, what happened with Dave is we made the whole show, which was a great time, and I feel like I could do a whole talk about
and
just
you
that
will
show.
One day.
And I probably will one day. But we made the show, and then we finished I think it was just one season. We finished the season, and we were waiting for a pickup for more episodes, and basically I just stayed in my office at Disney. I kept coming in pretty much every day for at least part of the day, just hanging out in my office waiting to see if we got a pickup. And then finally one day Barry came in and he was like, I think you should probably stop coming into the office because it doesn't look like they're going to pick the show up.
Well, wait. You skipped to the end without talking about making the show.
Yeah.
Dave the Barbarian.
I thought we just said we were going to do a whole separate show.
Oh, well, I didn't mean we couldn't talk about it at all. Okay. I want to hear some.
I know. It was like it was like my favorite show to make ever, and I like don't even know how to encapsulate it.
Okay.
And of course, it was instrumental in our meeting.
Yes.
Which we have talked about.
Yes.
I am looking at Candie's Dave the Barbarian tattoo right now.
Which I did not have when we met.
No,
but yeah.
Yeah, that was probably for the best.
And they made you add Princess Candie?
Yeah, so we made the pilot. The pilot did not have Princess Candie, and the other thing in the pilot, they were not in Udragoth all the time. They were traveling around, and they had a castle, and Oswidge, the uncle wizard guy, would shrink the castle down and put it in his pocket. And they would travel around, and then he would make the castle big again. And they were traveling around looking for the parents, because the parents had disappeared. So we made that, and they were like, okay, they did like focus testing, and at the focus testing, apparently they went in and asked a bunch of like 8-year-old girls, do you think this would be better with a princess? And they said yes, surprisingly. You could have asked them if they thought that their pizza would be better with a princess, and they would have said yes. So we added a princess, and also I felt like in that pilot episode, they were searching for their parents who had disappeared, and I was like, if we make the show, every episode has to be about them looking for their parents, or you're going to be like, what are they doing? Why aren't they looking for their parents? Right. And I was like, I want to do other stuff. So the only real changes we made were we added Princess Candie, who was wound up being a super fun character, and I love that we did that. And also, Candie,
yes,
has the same name, and that's important. And we had the parents; they were away fighting evil. And it became more and more apparent during the show that they were just on an extended vacation that they called fighting evil.
Right.
And they were indeed fighting some evil while they were out, but that was sort of their idea of a good time.
I see.
So them like going off for a while and leaving Princess Candie in charge was a much better setup for the show, because she was struggling with like being in charge of this land. They were in the same place all the time. They weren't on this quest to find their parents. We could do more variety of stuff.
Wouldn't it get expensive having those different locations and new characters every week?
Yeah, I mean, not as, it was 2D, and also it was very simple 2D, so it wouldn't have been probably prohibitively expensive. And actually, one of the reasons we had the traveling castle thing was so that we could have some sets that we reused.
Right.
But the show was designed to be made pretty cheaply. And, when we were developing it, I was like, I kind of want it to be like Rocky and Bullwinkle, where it's almost a radio show with pictures. And, like, if we have an episode where the animation, like, kind of tanks, because that happens sometimes, you get one that just doesn't work out. Like, the show will still work if the animation isn't working. And then when the animation is working, the show will be phenomenal. But right. At least, like, if you fall down on the animation for an episode, it's not going to ruin the show.
Right.
So that was the idea. And actually, at the beginning, we had to we would get scenes back from overseas, and we would have to go back to them and go, do less.
Right.
Less animation. Like, they're moving around too much. It should be limited animation. Like, if you cut to the goat chewing, just move the mouth. Don't move the goat around. It's just like rigid goat, just the mouth moving. And that became the style of the show. And Carlos Ramos, who designed the characters, designed them in a way that they were very recognizable, even if they were drawn a little bit badly. So that worked out really well. And then the background designs were fairly simple. Ashby Manson, who did the background paint stuff, came up with this sort of sponge texture painting technique. So they weren't very elaborate painterly. They were a little faster to produce. I wound up... Weird stuff happened on this show. There was a point where I wound up painting some of the backgrounds because I think they had to... I think Ashby had like finished out his contract, and we still had to do new backgrounds for some episodes or repaint some backgrounds for some episodes. So I wound up like taking his Photoshop sponge brushes and painting them myself.
Wow.
I did a lot of stuff. I actually animated a scene on the show. I did a lot of stuff that was not in my job description because I was so into the show, and I would redraw stuff, and I just was like wanted everything to be just right. And it was super fun and very like creative, exciting experience.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because a lot of people don't know that you are an artist.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm not.
Oh, shut up.
No, I'm just going to say I'm not. I'm not a professional artist who does it all the time, so I'm not fast.
Right, but you're an artist.
But I can draw.
Yeah.
But
and paint.
And paint.
Yeah.
But we were making the show, and our director, Howie Parkins, was like, if this show isn't a hit, I'm going to quit animation and open a bar. And then he didn't. He's still working. He's great. But
so Dave got 21 episodes, and then they killed it?
It was. I mean, it was always a weird fit for the Disney Channel. I think we made it at a time when they were like, let's go in more of like a wacky cartoon, like appealing to boys direction. And they greenlit 2 shows.
What was the other one?
The other one was Brandy and Mr. Whiskers. And then they changed their mind and they reworked Brandy and Mr. Whiskers to be a little bit less wacky, boy-centric. So we wound up being this weird like Oxbow Lake, like, a lake that gets abandoned by its river, where we were just this one show that didn't fit in with everything else, and it was hard for them to market it. It didn't fit the channel. It felt more like a Cartoon Network show. When we did focus testing, all of the kids, when they asked them where they thought the show should be, said Cartoon Network. Not one kid said Disney Channel.
I remember watching it as an adult before I met you, and I was like, this does not seem like a Disney show.
So, I mean, they loved the show. They were very supportive, and it just didn't fit. Like I wasn't mad about it. I was like, I get it. It's not the right show for this time and this place.
But it was the right show.
It was.
It was a good show.
But then they did Phineas and Ferb, which was also pretty wacky, cartoony, but a little bit more like I think a broader appeal, present day setting, a little bit different, and that did great for them. But it worked for them to do a wacky show. Dave was just not the right wacky show at that time. Which, I mean, it stabbed me in the heart because I loved the show, but I wasn't mad at anyone.
Right.
It wasn't anyone's fault.
And you have a beautiful heart. So.
Thank you very much. Despite the knife wounds.
Yes.
So I didn't get to make more of those.
That's sad.
But the next 2 shows I got because of Dave the Barbarian.
So it says the next show you have on here is the X's?
Yes. So the X's was Carlos Ramos' show, who did the character designs for Dave the Barbarian. And so we had worked together, and he really liked working on the show, and he liked working with me, and he was like, come do this show, and he showed me the pilot for it, and I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. So we made the show.
For Nick?
For Nickelodeon, yeah. We had a great time. We didn't get to make another season, but that's not that unusual. Things happen. I got to co-voice direct that one, so that was fun.
Was that your first time, or did you voice direct on?
I think I voice directed some of the Weekenders.
Yes, but no Dave?
No. It
I
was
think
Lisa
voice-
Schaefer on Dave.
I think
Yeah.
voice directing's fun.
Yeah. I get a little stressed out about it.
Yeah.
Like, you enjoy it more than I do.
I enjoy the reads. I have never really had to do the super organized part of it. So
Yeah, I love the people. I love hanging out with the people. I get a little stressed with the pace of it because you have to go pretty fast. But I will say that now that so back then we frequently recorded everyone or almost everyone together. We would do group records, and sometimes you'd have to pick up a couple of people here and there. But like the main cast, we would almost always have together. Now it's rare to do that. Like you're recording people individually all the time. I feel like there's a little bit less time pressure now because it's like instead of having 2 hours with everyone to do the whole show, you have an hour with this person, an hour with this person, an hour with this person. You can take a little bit more time. Right. It's not as fun because it's just fun to have everyone in there performing it together and they're all joking around and they're playing off of each other. But it is a little bit less stressful this way.
Yeah. Probably easier to schedule too.
Yes,
yeah.
It is. Well, it's easier to schedule and it's way easier for the voice actors because they just do like an hour here and there.
Yeah.
So, you know.
I can see that.
Yeah.
Happily Never After.
That was the thing. I did that in there somewhere. They had like a finished movie, and they weren't totally happy with it, and they brought me and a director in to try to like rework the movie without redoing the whole thing. And at the beginning, they weren't. I didn't understand like how much rewriting I could do, so I like rewrote the whole movie, and they were like, "Whoa, whoa, 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 whoa! We're not reanimating the whole movie. We can do like a few seconds here, a few seconds there, little bits and pieces." And then once I understood that, like I took a different approach. But you know, basically, I did some punch up and like minor story adjustments on the movie. And that was I got to voice direct Sigourney Weaver.
Yes.
Which was great. She was somewhere, I don't know, East Coast or something like that. So I had to do it like 5 a.m. my time, and
with a phone patch.
I literally was like in a bathrobe, sitting on the dryer in the garage, on a phone patch, directing Sigourney Weaver, who was fantastic and nuts.
That's
like,
great.
I mean, in the best possible
Fearless.
way. Yeah, it got to a point she was like, I'm seeing this as like a Ride of the Valkyries thing, and started singing Wagner. And I was like, she is going for it. Yeah. Like, she was really into it.
That's fun when people do that.
She was so good. It was a super fun cast. I got to do scratch for that. Actually, I sort of had to do scratch for that. Like all the new dialogue, they didn't have anyone. They didn't have a budget for it. So I was like, I'll just record it on my computer. And I recorded a bunch of stuff. And I remember when they did the re-record with the main actors, I was like, whatever you do, do not play the scratch that I did for the actors. You absolutely must be certain not to play it for the actors. And then they played it for the actors. And I just hear like one of the actors going, what is this? Who am I listening to? And I was on a phone patch, I think from Hawaii for some reason. Like I was on vacation, and I was like, that was me. I'm sorry. I asked that we not do that. Please ignore that. We do not want you to imitate my read. We should not have played that for you. It was like, I mean, it was the equivalent of giving an actor a line read, which you want to avoid.
Yes.
Unless they ask for it.
Yes.
We should do a whole episode on voice directing etiquette.
Yes, we should.
Yes.
Yes. El Tigre.
Yes. I think one of the sort of most central experiences for me, because of course I wound up working with Jorge for so long after that, and Sandra, and then you wound up working with them too.
Do you remember the moment that you met Jorge and Sandra?
I'm not sure I remember the exact moment, but they brought me on that show. So they had done like some development and a pilot and some animation and stuff already. And I think they had wanted to have me on at the beginning, but I was doing the X's and wasn't available, and so it didn't work out. But Jorge had a show in development at Disney called Pepe the Bull. It was great. I saw the pilot for it. It unfortunately didn't get made, but it was super fun. But when he was making that, they showed him the Dave the Barbarian pilot, and he was like, "Oh my God, we got to step up our game. This is amazing. Like, how are we ever going to compete with that?" And so he remembered me from seeing that pilot and from that show. So he wanted me on El Tigre. And I became available because the X's didn't get picked up. So I came on to El Tigre. Like when it was like about to start. Like they already had a pilot script. I rewrote the pilot script and we hit the ground running on that show. And it was another like fantastic experience.
And you were story editor? I
was story editor on that. Jorge and Sandra were the creator producers. Was an amazing show to do. We had a fantastic writing staff. We had Scott Kramer, who went on to do a ton of stuff. He does Camp Cretaceous and all this stuff. And I mentioned him before because I had been nominated for an Emmy with him without actually knowing him a few years before. And we had Scott Gimple, two Scotts, and Scott Gimple went on, of course, to run Walking Dead.
The showrunner on Walking Dead.
Yeah, so he's a big mucky muck now. Mm-hmm. I forgot to mention also that our best storyboard artist on Dave the Barbarian was Dave Filoni, who's like a kingpin at Lucasfilm now. He was the best.
That's amazing.
He was super funny. His boards were great, and he drew Faffy the dragon better than anyone. He really made that character sing. But anyway, El Tigre was a great time. We all loved working together. We had, I think we called it the council. We would have like the writing staff and producers and directors and stuff all like get together at least once a week and like come up with ideas and kick stuff around. It was very collaborative, super fun. When we went into the second season, we actually had a retreat where basically the whole staff went to a hotel for a day and just like everyone pitched their ideas for the second season. And we wound up, I think we got almost the whole second season from that one day. It was great.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, so that got, that, like, what happened? It, like, won an Emmy and didn't get picked up, like, at the same time.
Yeah, that happens.
It happens a lot.
It says the Looney Tunes show, 2011.
I wrote one episode of that. I actually just looked it up because I couldn't remember what I wrote. It was called Casa de Calma, and it was like Bugs and Daffy go to a spa resort, something.
What year was that, though? Because I know it wasn't 2011, was it?
No. It must have been like 2006, 7, 8.
It just took a while to come out.
I think.
Yeah, because that was before. After El Tigre, I met you in 2009.
Yes.
So you were kind of on the tail end of this.
So I think, we finished... El Tigre finished airing in 2008. We might have finished the show in 2007, but I think we finished it in 2008.
Yeah.
And then, I met you in 2009.
Yeah, we... I think the first time I met Jorge and Sandra was at their child's baby shower.
Oh, yeah.
So that was 2009.
Yeah.
And you and I had been dating a couple months. And... you see, we'd both been divorced 2 years.
So, I'd been separated 2 years and divorced for a year or something like that.
But we had split up with our former houses the same year and month.
Yeah.
And then met in 2009. 2 years later.
Yes.
And I was I had been working at a private investigation firm as a case writer. So, like, I was a professional writer, but in a very not creative sense.
I think you should say that you were a private detective.
Yeah, I wasn't, though.
Yeah.
But I was working toward it.
Okay.
Yes. And I have a degree in graphic design, and I previously did, like, web pages and stuff, logos, and I'm a hyper creative person.
Yes, you are.
And was always told that being creative was bad and being logical is good. So I spent most of my life as a fish on a bicycle,
Yeah.
trying to fit in.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I was a bookkeeper for a while. Like,
Wow.
I went to business school. I did my bookkeeping with pink and purple pens and drew unicorns in the margins.
Didn't they tell you to stop doing that in
My
school?
my bookkeeping teacher was like, "I'm going to give you an A because technically you did your work correctly, but promise me you never get a job as a bookkeeper."
Having known you for 15 years, bookkeeping does not seem like it would be
No,
your strong suit.
I can't even fathom that I was able to do that.
Yeah.
So yeah, fish on a bicycle.
Yeah.
And did not come from a family where, the arts were encouraged.
They had no history
Yeah, it was just
of that. Yeah.
be a carpenter or a secretary. Yeah. So I just was like trying to fall into line, and
And you always liked cartoons.
I never stopped watching
Yeah.
cartoons.
You were like me.
Yeah.
You kept watching them as an adult.
Yes.
Yeah.
And all the way through. And I always wrote stories as a hobby, and because I was always a good writer.
Yeah.
And, paint. I've been making clothes for about 40 years.
Yeah.
I make jewelry. I make dioramas. I do wood burning. I do acoustic painting.
You have made soap and paper.
Yes.
I think at one point we figured out that if the apocalypse happened and we were in this post-apocalyptic wasteland, you would have to do everything. Because I have no useful skills.
You
and
cook
you can make
well.
soap.
You cook well.
So I can follow a recipe.
Yeah. And so we cooked lunch together a few hours ago.
Yes, we did.
Yes. So anyway, I've just been sort of creative and undirected, bouncing around. And another thing I should mention is I have horrific anxiety and OCD.
Yeah.
So that has flavored my life a bit.
Yes.
And it's gotten better. So just want to say that.
Yeah.
Better than I ever dreamed it could get. So to explain things, when you have severe anxiety, your life becomes about trying to avoid anxiety, avoid triggers, avoid things that could set you off and embarrass you in public. Could you turn the ceiling fan off?
Oh, yeah, the ceiling fan. Oh.
Thank you. So then you get caught up in compulsions in order. Boy, this took a turn, didn't it? I did mention I have ADHD. So,
Big sip.
yeah. So you get caught up in compulsions and like little rituals to keep the anxiety from happening. So, and then if you're not careful, it can take over your life.
Yeah.
So, I have to mention it. It explains some things.
Yes.
It has, like, I've been working under some limitations.
Yeah.
But hasn't it gotten so much better?
It has, yes.
Yeah. So, walking into this, and then you're the Dave the Barbarian guy. I watched the show as an adult, and my name is Candie, and Princess Candie's name is Candie, was the most exciting thing in the world. And I met you, and you were just so cute and funny and lovely, and I just was immediately smitten by you. And all of a sudden, I'm in this new life with you, and we're having so much fun. Everything is lovely. And then when we met, You were writing Scooby-Doo Legend of the Phantasaur. I think you had just finished it and you were writing Big Top Scooby-Doo.
I think so. Yeah.
Yes.
It was a bit of a lull in my career when we met. So I was still like doing little development things and like worked on a thing at Disney that didn't go and, you know, stuff like that. But yeah, I wrote I was finishing up a Scooby-Doo movie.
Yes. And then you did like a Megamind Day.
Oh, yeah, somewhere in there. Yeah, so they had people, DreamWorks had people come in to pitch series takes for Monsters versus Aliens. So, like, the movie wasn't out yet. We came in, they showed us the movie, and then they said, like, come up with what you think the series should be and come back in a week or whatever and pitch it to us. And so they had a bunch of people come in and do that. And what wound up happening was they didn't go for my take on the show, but they like kind of liked what everyone did. Their favorite was Peter Hastings, the Pinky and the Brain guy, who I had worked with once after Pinky and the Brain. Like we knew each other by this time. We did development on a show at Disney that never went forward. But
didn't he direct the Country Bears Jamboree movie?
He directed the live action Country Bears movie, yes.
Which was weird that they made the movie and then removed the ride or the show from the park.
It was weird all around.
That was like, why did they do that?
Yeah, and it was a fun movie that like it hit at the wrong time, I think, and then especially the wrong time because they got rid of the ride.
That was weird.
But it was like, and everyone was like, "It's crazy! Who would make a movie based on a ride?"
Oh
and
my
then
God!
Eventually, Pirates of the Caribbean.
What was that?
Every movie.
I never saw that. Was it good?
Yeah.
I'm kidding.
But Peter, so they liked Peter's take, and Peter was like, okay, I want to bring some writers in and like have a writer's room and develop this thing. So he brought in a bunch of the writers who had come in and pitched takes. So he brought in me and Adam Pava and Tom Pugsley, and we came in and we developed the show. We spent a few days. One of the DreamWorks execs was actually there with us. And we like came up with a Monsters versus Aliens series, and they really liked it. What happened? I think they like showed it to Nickelodeon. Nickelodeon didn't want to make it, but they were making Kung Fu Panda, so they asked Peter to come on to Kung Fu Panda, and he brought me and Adam and maybe Tom. I don't think Tom did Kung Fu Panda. But brought like a couple of us on to do that show. And he brought in Paul Rugg and Gene Grillo and some other like it was a lot of like experienced old time people who've been writing cartoons for a long time. Most of the staff writers on the show had run shows before, so we were all like more than qualified. Scott Kramer was another one. So we came in and wrote on Kung Fu Panda for like years, it seemed like.
Yeah, I remember you started that a few months after we met.
Yeah.
And then you were working on that for a long time.
Yeah, it was super fun. Peter was running it at the beginning with Cheryl Holiday, who is awesome. Sitcom writer, super funny
King of the
person.
Hill.
King of the Hill, she worked on.
I remember the way I met Peter Hastings was you invited all the guys from work to come over to our house for lunch.
Oh, yeah.
And Peter got there before you did, and he just walked right in. And I was like, there's a dude in the house.
Peter is very confident.
Yes.
Peter does not hesitate.
Yeah, he just came in.
Yeah.
That was funny.
That's why you see that's why like he can direct a movie because like he just doesn't question it. He's like, I'm going to do this. I'm doing the thing.
That's what you just have to have an opinion and be confident.
I admire his confidence. It's really
yes.
It's good and it's useful.
Yes, pretty awesome.
But yeah, so Kung Fu Panda did it for years. They made Scott Kramer story editor at some point.
Hang on, you're getting ahead of yourself because
I am?
Yes. You and Jorge were writing the Book of Life when I met you.
Yes.
Yes.
So, yep.
Wait.
Yes.
And then Scooby-Doo Stage Fright.
Oh, I skipped over that. Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think we talked about it in the first podcast.
We did a little bit, yeah.
Yes, you got permission from me to write, and I was like, what? Because you had been reading the stuff I wrote, and
Yeah.
you're like, you're a good writer.
Yeah.
And then I was like, I can't do this.
I read all your super funny stories, and I was like, obviously, you should be doing this. They weren't cartoony. It wasn't like you wrote stuff that was like goofy and had talking animals in it, but it was super funny and super engaging and likable. And I was like, you should be doing this. Write stuff with me.
I just want to say the four sisters in Stage Fright.
Yes.
They never say their names in the show, but their names are Nancy, Kathy, Donna, and Amy.
Uh-huh.
After my friend Kathy and her sisters who live in Chicago.
Yes.
And Kathy and Amy have since passed away.
Yeah.
But I love that we have that little memorial of them there.
Yes.
So, yes. So then, Book of Life. You guys were working on that for a long time.
Long time, yeah. Jorge had pitched it, and then, and these are his stories, so I won't tell them, but he had, like, crazy, insane, like, pitching to Guillermo del Toro was a whole thing.
Yes, and no one can tell a story like Jorge.
No one can. But it wound up at DreamWorks, and we were developing it at DreamWorks for quite a while. We got to work with a bunch of super cool people, but there came a point where, like, we kept changing it and tweaking it and doing little changes here and there, and then at some point they were like, is there a way to make this movie where he never dies, but he goes to the land of the dead? And we were like, not really, no. And it was just sort of like, I don't think you want to make the movie we want to make, and I don't think we want to make the movie you want to make. And DreamWorks was like, yeah, you're probably right. Like, it was very amicable parting. It's just like, it wasn't working out. They, like, gave the rights back to Jorge, and we went, nice. We were able to go other places. Yeah, I mean, I felt like they were very supportive in the breakup.
And years later, we went to a screening of it at DreamWorks, and Jeffrey Katzenberg and Guillermo were both there, which was nice. Yeah. So Jorge pitched it to Guillermo, and he came on as a producer, and they made it in Dallas, and at Real Effects.
Real Effects made the movie, and Fox released it.
We drove to Dallas.
Yeah, we drove out there when they were making it.
Had tacos, I remember. It was good.
Had a little visit. It was, they were in, like, the Deep Ellum neighborhood, and it was pretty cool.
Yeah, it was fun.
It was a nice neighborhood. It was a nice setup.
Stopped by the Alamo on the way back.
Yes.
Yeah.
But that was a good time. And then, I don't think I'm exaggerating to say it is a beloved movie.
Yes.
And for some reason, last year it became a Christmas movie, which is weird.
Oh, whatever works.
Because, of course, it's a Dia de los Muertos movie, which is November 2nd, which is well before Christmas and not related.
People kind of suck November in as part of Christmas.
Yeah, but it's barely November. But, it's a family movie, and it was on Netflix, and, like, a ton of people watched it around Christmas last year, all of a sudden, for some reason. But
I'm for it.
Yeah, no, I'm in favor of it, too.
Yes.
But, people treat it like a Halloween movie. It's almost. It's got a lot of skeletons, so.
Yeah.
But, it's the same season. It's related to the same original holiday, so why not?
Yeah.
But that was a great experience, and people love the movie, and I love that we got to be associated with it. Candie, you did some writing on that, just not credited.
I pitched a couple of jokes.
You pitched jokes.
But I can't even say what they are, or...
Yeah.
Yes.
It was...
I mean, like, as and I don't remember.
Yeah,
but I remember saying, hey, how about that?
Yeah.
A couple times.
So we got to go to the premiere. We got to meet Ron Perlman and Danny Trejo and a bunch of people. Super fun.
That was good times.
Yeah.
I didn't get any of the cake.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. And then you went from Kung Fu Panda ended, and then you went to Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Yeah. The what was that? The second CG version? It was the Nickelodeon version. Yeah. And when was that? 2014? Yeah, 2014.
I remember you wrote the episode that introduced Bebop and Rocksteady.
Oh yeah, that was the most sort of in Turtles lore. That was the most important episode I got to work on. I think I wrote the least liked episode. If you go on IMDb, the lowest fan rated episode I believe was the Bigfoot one that I wrote.
How did that come about?
I don't remember. All I remember is that Bigfoot was really into cooking because I think Bigfoot might have been female in this, but they had been watching like the Food Network through someone's window and learning about cooking. And at one point, that Bigfoot said, "Bigfoot understand flavor profile."
Oh my God!
And it was strange.
But they weren't in the sewers and eating pizza. They were. Were they?
In some episodes, okay. But then later we had some episodes.
No, I mean that particular episode.
That particular episode. Yeah. No, they were out in the woods.
So you took the fans away from the formula that works, and it did not pay off.
No, it did not.
Okay.
But I don't care. I like the episode. Oh. So I did that for a while, and then DreamWorks asked me to, I think it was Peter Gall at DreamWorks, asked me to pitch takes on the Puss in Boots series. And for some reason, I immediately thought, obviously, Brigadoon, the Scottish musical.
Obviously.
So, which is about, it's like a magical town that appears every 100 years. Mm-hmm. So, just the idea of this hidden town. I thought would be interesting. And they wanted to do something that could plausibly take place kind of in the middle of the events of the feature, the first movie. Like, between when he gets thrown out of his hometown, but before he meets Kitty Softpaws, in that there's this realm where he's kind of out being an adventurer.
And he's not quite Puss in Boots yet. I mean, he's Puss in Boots, but he's still learning. He's like a younger guy.
He believes that he's the legendary Puss in Boots, but everywhere he goes, people are like, who?
Yeah, but I mean, he's not as suave in the series.
Not quite there. He's younger. He's not as experienced.
I've heard people... Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I've heard people comment that it doesn't look as good, and then I'm like, people don't understand the difference between series budgets and feature budgets.
No.
Which is, maybe we should do a podcast on that.
We definitely should, because the movie cost like $200 million, and the entire series, the many, many hours and dozens of episodes cost a small fraction of that.
It's a whole other thing.
Also, I think we made the entire series in less time than they took to make the first movie. You just don't have the time and money.
Yeah.
But I mean, it looked, for a TV, it looked fantastic. Mm-hmm. So, and also we got to make the interactive episode.
Yes.
Which was super weird and super fun. That was another one, kind of like, I think I mentioned on Mr. Potato Head, we were shooting out of order, and I wrote all the scripts, and I was the only one who ever knew what was going on. Mm-hmm. This was like that. Like, so it was interactive. It was a choose-your-own-adventure kind of thing.
On Netflix. Control it with your remote.
Yeah, with your remote, you could pick different story tracks, and they would sort of interweave, and you would go off in a direction, then maybe you'd come back, maybe you'd go off another way. But it was like, I don't know, like 50 minutes of animation for a 23-minute episode or something like that. Mm-hmm. So there were all these different branches of the story that I had in my head, and we sort of charted them out on paper, but I don't think anyone really understood it. But I was like, I know this works. I understand how this works. Just like make sure this scene starts and ends in these places. And I think in the whole thing we made one mistake. There's like one, like a character beat or a costume change or something that didn't hook up. But we pulled it off pretty well. That was a fun thing to do. When they originally approached me with the idea of doing an interactive episode, they were like, "We want you to pitch ideas for an interactive episode of Puss in Boots. We're asking everyone, all the different shows, to pitch stuff and see what they come up with." And I was like, "Oh my god, this is the greatest thing ever!" Like, I put all this work into it, came up with a thing that we could do, pitched the idea, and I was like, "What do you think the odds are we'll get to do it?" And they were like, "Oh, no one else wanted to do it. You're the only one who pitched." Everyone else was like, "That sounds hard." So we got to do it.
Were you the kid who volunteered to do extra credit?
I think I was, because it was like a lot more work. But I really wanted to.
Yeah.
And then we made it in, they made a few interactive episodes of shows, and then it didn't become a huge thing. But it was fun. We were the first one, I believe. Mm-hmm. So, groundbreaking.
Yes. I'm going to back up a little because things don't show up on IMDb at the same pace they show up
Yes.
in real life.
Right.
So Guardians of Oz was something you wrote with Jorge?
Jorge and I got hired to write this Oz thing. Like, he came up with an idea. We wrote it. It didn't really work for the studio, and they had someone else come in and rewrite it. I honestly, I don't know what happened with it.
Okay. Well, I'm glad I pulled that scab off.
But, yeah. I honestly, I haven't seen it. I don't know.
Top Cat Begins.
Top Cat Begins was one. Yeah, it was like a for hire thing. They were like, "We want to make a Top Cat movie." I was like, "That sounds great." I came in, wrote a thing. They made the movie.
Did you do that with Jorge?
No.
No?
No.
Okay.
Was it the same? I don't think it was the same company. It could have been. It was a company in Spain, or Mexico. Maybe it was Mexico.
There's difference.
There's a big difference.
Okay.
They're completely different continents.
Yes. Super Macho Fighter, that is obviously a Jorge thing.
That is yeah. I think everything that he does is called Super Macho Fighter at some point. It encapsulates his philosophy. Yeah, that was an interactive thing that Jorge did. Like a virtual reality thing. It was another like super complicated thing because you had to like make a thing where the audience could look wherever they wanted to, but they still had to be able to follow the story. So that was super complicated. And I came in, I think I did some like rewriting on that. I didn't write the whole thing.
Yeah. And then Kung Fu Panda.
Yes.
Scooby-Doo Shaggy Showdown was another Scooby-Doo direct-to-video.
And we wrote that one together, right?
Yes, and I think I actually got written by credit.
Yes. Yeah.
On that one.
And that was the Western one, right?
Yes. And then Puss in Book Trapped in an Epic Tale.
That's the interactive, yeah.
Zafari.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that was our first time working with David Dozoretz.
Yeah.
And Zafari was the first show animated entirely in the Unreal gaming engine. So that was fun.
Yeah.
And I got to write an episode that Melody Hobson, George Lucas's wife, she did a voice for one of the episodes I did. So that was fun. She's based on her TED Talk, Color Brave.
Yeah.
So that was fun.
Yeah.
It was a fun show.
Yeah. And I hadn't done a lot of, technically that was a bridge show, not a preschool show, but it was for a young audience. And I hadn't done a lot of that. So that was a fun experience.
And it was fun working with David Dozoretz.
Yeah, David's fantastic.
Yeah. He was a Star Wars guy, CG guy.
Yeah, he was Industrial Light and Magic guy starting in the 90s, I think. Worked on...
Yeah, we should get him on this podcast because he's got stories.
He does have stories.
He's interesting.
Yeah, we'll get him on.
Yes.
But we made that show with him.
That was fun. And then Puss in Boots Vampirina, which was another thing you did with Jorge, correct?
Yeah, they asked Jorge to write a Vampirina because he's friends with Chris Nee, who ran that show.
And it's a Dia de los Muertos episode.
It was, yeah.
Yes. And then Bolo Fest.
Oh, yeah.
We wrote a parade a few different years. During COVID, the They couldn't have the big. It's basically
Yeah.
the big Christmas parade.
Yeah. It's like the equivalent of like
The
because
Macy's.
it's Thanksgiving,
Yeah.
but yeah, like our Macy's Thanksgiving
But it
parade.
was the Liverpool Christmas parade
Yeah.
in Mexico,
Yeah.
and they couldn't do it
They
live
couldn't do it in person that year.
because of COVID. So they had us write
An
a
animated,
parade
yeah, parade.
with David Dozoretz.
Yeah.
It was so fun, and
Yeah.
David's company animated that.
I just remember telling people, like, what are you doing? Oh, we're writing a parade.
Yes.
What now?
So we did
It
that.
was super fun. And they used, like, back plates of the actual locations where the parade would take place, and they did all this animation, and
That was kooky.
it was fun,
Yeah, we did that 3 times. I think 3 years.
Yeah, three variations on it, because they do the parade now, but
Yes.
they do some animation also.
I think the last year was hybrid.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, wait, I want to talk about Dogtanian and the Muscahounds
Dogtanian and the Three Muscahounds.
before we get to Cleopatra in space. But
Okay. Yeah, we're a little out of order in when stuff happened, because that happened before Bolo Fest. But yeah, it was so Dogtanian was a very popular show, like all around the world except the U.S. In the 80s, I think.
yeah.
Based on the Three Musketeers, the
Dumas?
Dumas novel.
Or
Yes, Alexander Dumas. Yeah.
Was it? Okay.
And I had never heard of it, and like I mentioned it to Jorge, and he was like, "Of course, that was like super famous. It was very popular everywhere but the U.S. Huge in England, huge in Mexico, huge in Europe, and they were the people who originally did it were bringing it back. And they wanted to do a movie, so I came in and wrote the movie, and they made it. That was
happened.
fun. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Now there was some. I don't know. I was really happy with a lot of the stuff in that. It was a fun time.
I like the theme song.
Yeah.
So Cleopatra in space, based on
The graphic novels. Yeah. Yeah, that was, I mean, I think when we started, it was like we weren't, it was DreamWorks. It was a 2D show, and I'd been doing Puss in Boots, which is CG. So it was a bit of a change. And they wanted to, like, they had optioned these graphic novels. They wanted to make a series. They didn't want to exactly follow the graphic novels for various reasons. So we came up with, we sort of like took the premise of the books and made a variation on that. And I think when we were making it like, we weren't even really sure, like DreamWorks wasn't really sure where it was going to wind up. So it wound up on Peacock. I think when Peacock premiered, I think it was one of the original shows. And we made, what did we make? What does it say? 26? We made a bunch of those. It was super fun. I don't know. I was very pleased with that show. I don't know if it ever really found its audience, but I thought it was a great show.
Well, it was hard to find.
Yeah, well, because it was the time when like all these new streamers were coming out, and it wasn't on one of the main ones that everybody knows about, and like not a lot of people had Peacock, but then Peacock was going to have the Olympics, so suddenly people started getting Peacock, but it was hard to find. And I remember like telling people about it, and they're like, "Oh yeah, I haven't decided if I'm getting Peacock yet." And so it went out there, and there were. It definitely had its fans. It was like every show, even if it doesn't find a huge audience, there's someone out there who it's their favorite show, and there were people who loved it.
You still get fan mail about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and that is on Instagram. I think if anyone wants to contact us with questions.
Oh yeah, we need to give
As long as the questions aren't about
Why-
Scooby-Doo continuity.
why we had someone allergic to horses when they weren't in the 60s
Just
on Scooby-Doo.
yeah, but if anyone has like legitimate questions, comments, whatever, the best way to get a hold of us is on Instagram, Doug and Candie Langdale, and there are underscores, so it's Doug _ spell out the word and _ Candie spelled CANDIE _ Langdale, Langdale, and we can put this in the comments or something somewhere.
Yes.
So anyway, so feel free to say hi and follow us on Instagram.
I feel like we're about to get into the massive amount of work that we did at the beginning of COVID.
Yes, the COVID years.
And this is probably the time to break.
Cleopatra in Space was winding down. We were developing a show with the band Steam Powered Giraffe at this time, which is so fun. I'm still trying to shop it around. I'm still looking for a studio for it. That was amazing.
Everyone go check out Steam Powered Giraffe.
Yes.
They're fantastic.
Yes. That's its whole different episode. But those were good times.
Yeah.
God, I'm talking about like I guess it was a bit before COVID. It was in the before times.
Yes.
So let's end here.
Yep.
And pick it up. We'll get to the COVID years.
Yes.
Woo. Okay.
We'll see you soon.
Well, thank you for listening.
Thank you.